in the U.S. while they're going through that system, so they're able to find jobs. Typically, it falls on NGOs, non-government organizations, to kind of provide that initial support for people. If you've ever visited the border, you see kind of how closely these NGOs work with the federal government to kind of help migrants in those first steps. Oftentimes, people who are arriving at the border have family members who are already in the U.S. and they're planning to go and join them, and it could be any state across the country where they're planning to go and work, and sometimes send money back to their families who remain in their home country. So it looks different, but when it comes to the federal government support for asylum seekers, if they're granted asylum, there's very little help that's provided.
Let's hear from Michael. Michael's in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Democrats line. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for C-SPAN. I called last year about this issue, and I wondered to the depth why there's no concentration on Mexico itself. Now, I understand President Biden went down to Mexico and met with the Mexican president, but I think it's important that the United States puts pressure on Mexico not to allow this to happen. Thank you.
Actually, that has been a large focus of both this administration and the previous administration. In fact, the policy, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, that allows the U.S. to expel to Mexico Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, Cubans, and Haitians fully depends on Mexico's cooperation. We cannot just send people back to Mexico without the Mexican government agreeing to do so. So there are certainly people who think Mexico should be doing more, should be doing more to protect its own borders, but there is certainly cooperation between the U.S. and Mexico, and the U.S. has been working with other countries in the hemisphere as well, trying to get them to help us out and enforce their own borders. Panama is another example of a country that the U.S. works with to try to stop the flow of migrants who are crossing the dangerous Darien Gap through Panama and heading north, as we've seen increasingly people coming from South America. So this is a very important part of this whole debate, and diplomacy is a huge part of this.
And as part of that, helping those areas, particularly where you're seeing people flee for political reasons or otherwise, improve financially and improving the infrastructure there so they don't leave in the first place.
Yeah, the root causes is something that this administration has been very focused on, and they have focused those efforts on the Central American nations, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, which for a long time have been kind of the top countries where people are coming from as they head to the U.S.
Estoy estirando mi pie y mi brazo. Yo mismo mi terapia. Gracias por orar por mí. Estoy bien. Mi brazo izquierdo y mi pie izquierdo. Estoy bien, familia y amigos.
Yeah, hi. I could be on this program. I could do a documentary like Michael Moore did on Rossford and how bad it is over here. I want to say something about President Eisenhower, because he did something about this. He was really for America. We can't get that kind of leadership anymore in this country. He bust them right out of here. He had a look it up on your computer and show the people this. Wikipedia, Operation Wetback. He got them out of here. None of this nonsense. There's no rules anymore. Where I live, the only rules there are no rules. I go to the town hall with pictures of these houses. This is a border town, and I'm all the way on Long Island. You would not live here, Pedro, and neither would your guests. This place is a mess. These houses are packed. They're paying taxes on single-family houses. The supervisor of the town lives in West Islip.
Okay, so caller, I hate to interrupt, but what's the question for our guest?
Well, I'd like to know if she heard about Operation Wetback, what Eisenhower did. He didn't.
Okay, thank you.
I can't say the details of that policy, and I understand the caller is frustrated and wants to see increased deportations, and I would just note that part of this is also a logistical issue. It's not logistically feasible for the U.S. to deport anyone who is here in the country undocumented, and oftentimes people are going through a legal process, and that just takes time. So the reality is we do deport people who are here unauthorized.
Gracias por traerme la Biblia, amigos. Gracias.
course,
Bendito sea el
the
Señor.
reality is if you
En
come to the
tiempos
US,
buenos,
the
tiempos
chances of
malos.
being deported are pretty low at this moment just because
Donde
one,
quiera que
not
estén, amigos y familia, Dios me los guarde y los bendiga.
especially for people who
Estoy
commit
bien.
any kind of crime.
We saw,
Estoy fuerte en el nombre de Dios.
introducing the Border Safety and Security Act. It would allow the Homeland Security Secretary to turn away certain migrants to achieve operational control.
Hay una unción
I
aquí.
think it is intentionally
Hay una
allow
unción
the
que
Secretary of DHS
hay
to kind of decide
aquí.
if resources are overrun, if there is a need to kind of slow
Mi
the
espíritu y mi vida.
he could just decide,
Root beer float?
"No, you can't come across the US Mexico
Ah?
right now.
Do you want a
unless
root beer
have a
float?